In this appendix video, we'll look at how structure armor can be both buffed and debuffed in AOTR. These are not features to be found in the vanilla game at all, so they add a whole new realm of possibilities to the game as a whole. Various normal units, heroic units, and heroes all have the capability to either buff or debuff structure armor. So in this video you'll see many of each unit type utilizing these unique features. Before we begin, let's first look at how a very weak unit, the Hobbits of Rivendell, do against a fortress, as we'll be using these units a bit in the demonstrations ahead. We'll use 4 battalions. The fortress will not be upgraded, and will not be for any other demonstration in this video. However, because they're hobbits, they're going to need a little help. I'll stack these 2 buffs and see how far they get. Let's watch. We won't belabor the point here. The hobbits do precisely what you would expect to a fortress. Now let's see how they would perform when aided by just 2 sources of structure armor debuffing. Another Rivendell unit, the Revelers, and Erebor's Hathod. Each has a powerful debuffing ability, as you can see here. Let's see how this team up of just these 2 units alone does for the humble hobbits. Major difference. The hobbits from just 2 sources of structure armor debuffing took out a fortress in just about 20 seconds. Imagine what could be done with only a handful of other stronger units, or even just 1 or more debuffing abilities, or just 1 or 2 more hobbit units. Now let's look at the impact of siege units and structure armor debuffing. We'll start with using just 4 upgraded Dwarven mangonels alone to set the stage. Pretty good damage. 1 more volley and the fortress would be down. But what about with Hathod and a different source of debuffing? We'll use another hero from Erebor, King Brand. His Black Arrow ability works on enemy units, including enemy heroes, but it is also quite strong against structure armor. Let's watch.
The king under the mountain is our greatest ally. Go forth, Black Arrow.
Sing out if you see the enemy.
That's right, it's Dwarven quality.
Weapons, dwarves! Weapons!
Not built very well, is it?
Their fortress crumbles like dry leaves.
Why risk destroying a fortress with 2 volleys when you can do it with just 1, right? Now let's move on to structure armor buffing. To set the stage for how powerful structure armor buffing can get, let's first see what it takes to destroy a fortress all at once. Exactly 8 Dwarven mangonels, no more or less. Let's see the destruction. Quite fun to pull off. Rare to see it happen. But what about if you had a team game going on and everyone worked together to keep a base held down tight? Let's look at many of the units which can do this. You'll notice that 3 of these sources all come from one faction, Gondor, a great faction for making a base tough to crack.
It's that golem creature.
Notice also the structure buffing symbols above the 2 structures.
Ready your weapons. Tell me what you need. Guardsmen, attention!
Now let's see how those 8 Dwarven mangonels do.
We'll make short work of this.
Those mangonels aren't as impressive now. Obviously, this is a pretty extreme example. You'd have to have a team up of 5 players in this case to get structure armor that strong. But it demonstrates quite well just what you can do with the system if you really wanted to. And those are certainly not all of the structure buffs possible. But what if an enemy pulled out all the stops? This time, I'll use the 8 mangonels, all the structure armor debuffing heroes and units we've used previously, and one more, Erebor's Bard the Bowman, who also has a Black Arrow ability, but which does a bit more debuffing than King Bran's Black Arrow. I'll even cap it off with the Earthquake spellbook power. Let's see what happens. That fortress hangs on by a thread. All that player would have to do is use a quick repair power and it's back to square one for me. Apart from the Reveler's passive structure armor debuffing power, all my abilities and powers would have a long cooldown. To be able to pull off so much debuffing at once is a trick, twice is almost unfeasible. But structure armor buffing, on the other hand? Apart from the Fountain Guard's ability, all the units and heroes doing the buffing on the fortress are using passive powers that do not have cooldowns. All those players would have to do is keep those units close by, and that's how most structure armor boosting powers work, including rare structures like the Stoneworker you just saw. Whereas most structure armor debuffing powers are abilities with limited durations and somewhat long cooldowns. So when you go to debuff structures, you've got to be sure to follow up fast. Hadod's debuffing ability is strong after all, but it only lasts 7 seconds. Make sure to plan your strategies accordingly. As you can see, structure armor buffing and even debuffing can be quite impressive indeed in AOTR. And it's a real shame the vanilla game does not offer either feature. There are lots of ways of going about it either way, but proof that the dynamics are quite useful however you do it.